So bring your own device revolution and collaboration. I'm going to talk a little bit about collaboration in terms of video and other conferencing techniques. But predominantly I'm going to stick with bring your own device. So it already started with a PC, of course, but the PC is no longer just the only device we use on a daily basis. In fact, I would argue that many of us, unless we're a knowledge worker, wouldn't use a fixed PC or a portable PC anyway. Most people's experience of computing is through a fixed device. 80% of the market is using computing, but they're using it through a fixed application on a fixed desktop PC, which is obviously shared in a lot of environments. Bank tellers, you might even say. Yeah. It's only the knowledge workers really that have access to PCs, the top sort of 20% of the people within the workforce a lot of the time. Then, of course, what happened after that? Well, this came along. Now, I know I could have put other symbols on here as well, and I've got visions that I can remember back to some of the early gaming technology of a little Android device coming in, taking nibbles out of the Apple, but I wouldn't mind betting that a number of you in the room actually have iPhones and iPads. So, quick show of hands, how many people in the room actually own an iPad today? Over 50%, so that's pretty typical these days. Of course, if we look further from that, the rest is really history. The number of applications that have really been spawned in the mobility world, both Android and Apple orientated in terms of what's going on. This slide is way out of date. I used this about a month ago at another event. It's changing dramatically on a daily basis, and these are finding their way into businesses as well. Tablets, 75 million of them around the world. A significant amount of that going on for business by the end of 2012. Smartphones, huge explosion moving towards smartphones from the plain old telephone or the original cell phones that we had weren't too smart, couldn't support applications. And the number of social media users, different topic. I'm going to steer clear of social media today, not going to be the topic for today. But that tablet market is growing and growing very rapidly. 50% of enterprise users are really interested in using consumer-based applications. Whether or not it fits a business model is debatable, but we can talk a little bit about that offline if we need to. The smartphone application revenue is really set to triple by about 2014. Depends on the size of the business. Obviously, the lower end of the businesses, the smaller, medium-sized businesses adopt this technology more readily than the larger enterprises in a lot of ways. But it doesn't mean that it's not finding your way into your business and through the back door. And of course, who's really at the centre of this is you. And this is an actual cover from Time magazine, I think it was. It really puts you really at the centre as a person. Now, you're controlling the technology. And I know we've got, obviously, in the audience here, a number of managers from an IT perspective, but when I say you, the end user, and it doesn't matter where you sit in the organisation, that user is having a lot more influence over the technology that they use on a daily basis. Again, it may be under the screen, you may not be seeing it, but it goes on. So the mobile collaboration drivers, we need to accelerate, obviously, return to business growth. We know we're stuttering through what is a very tough economy at the moment in Europe, and obviously the UK is not immune to that. We need to accelerate customer development and sales processes. People and processes are scattered more globally these days. That could be, as we were talking about earlier on, home working here. So even within the UK, this covers all forms of sort of remote working, if you like, whether you're on the road as a salesman delivering services, whether you're sitting at home and providing a home working environment. But people are scattered globally, and it could be national, it could be across a county, it could be across the globe in reality. And the impact on business and customer relationships obviously needs to be taken care of. Now, bring your own device and consumerization. I could equally talk about bring your own technology as well as another term that's coming about now because it covers applications as well as devices. Again, we're going to try and centre it on the device conversation today and communication applications. That's where we're going to try and centre it. Up to 40% of employees spend 20% of their time away from their desk, even if they are based in an office. That's the reality. Over 80% of Fortune 100 deploying iPhones and iPads. Again, some of that's formal, some of it's informal in terms of bring your own device, and there are different funding models behind this, of course, as well. We can talk about that. 72% of organisations permitting employee-owned devices. Now, what I would say here is that although that goes on in the UK, goes on in the European markets, what you will find is you go beyond the UK, and if you have parts of your business that may span beyond the UK, you'll find that in emerging markets, places like Asia Pacific and Africa, the adoption of these technologies that are funded by the user rather than by the company is much greater. Because it is a business model that works for them. Yeah? We're a little bit more hesitant or conservative about how we fund the devices and fund the applications, but it's certainly accelerating, getting away in the emerging markets far more in terms of self-funding of devices. Okay. Blended personal and business life. Again, I've yet to strike out and actually find the right balance here, but One of the things it does is, of course, it forces you to try and blend applications and devices you use on your personal life with your enterprise life. Whether that means on an enterprise device and then blending personal applications on top of that, or whether it be a cell phone device that you're trying to blend business applications on the top of, it can happen either way. So tablets and smartphones mixing together in enterprise, both personal and social uses. If it's my device, I expect to be able to use my personal applications on it. That's a challenge for a lot of enterprises, of course, from a security perspective. And security across mixed enterprise personal use is now becoming very, very key. And Jazz will touch on some of this from an identity management I think we'll be talking about later. It's one element, if you like, of the security that's needed. So voice is important, but for many it's no longer enough. So voice is still, I would argue, the most critical form of communication. Okay, if you want to get something done and you want to get it done quickly, then speaking to someone is usually the most effective way of doing that, whether it be on the phone or face-to-face. So voice is very important, but in order to collaborate, voice is no longer enough for some people. So there's this growing need to support real-time collaboration for geographically dispersed teams. As I said, could be on a national level, could be on a county level, could be even within a campus environment, but it's certainly there. So mobility is really all about ensuring that collaboration can occur anyway. And collaboration to me is a human thing, it's a human factor. It's not about technology. Technology supports collaboration. Collaboration is an act. Yeah? You could argue that monkeys collaborate. We'll stick to humans for the purpose of this conversation. But collaboration is supported by technology, and really mobility is all about ensuring collaboration can occur anywhere. And it has to be device and media independent, and it has to be supported by contextual information. I'll talk about that more in a second. So enterprise collaboration applications, and what I'm talking about here is the communication applications typically. They should be portable and preserve the user experience. The user experience is a critical element. If the user experience is not user-friendly, so to speak, and it's not as universal as it should be, then the users will shy away from it and they will find their own result or their own solution to the problem. They will go looking for applications that will do the job for them effectively. So they need to be seamless, they need to be multimodal, because in this day and age it's not just about voice, it's about video, it's about web conferencing, it's about audio conferencing, a whole host of desktop screen sharing type technologies. It has to be contextual. I mean, what do we mean by context? When we talk about the Flare story, and we don't have too much time to talk about Flare today, what we talk about context is, if you like, mining information that's relevant to the collaboration event that's going on. So often you'll find yourself in the middle of an audio conference, a video conference, and you need to refer to a document or extract information relevant to the people that you're talking to at that time, relevant to the project that's ongoing. That's very much a manual process these days, diving into other applications, searching for folders, digging out PowerPoint, bringing it up. What we want to do is automate a lot of that, so that if the system is intelligent enough to know who you're talking to, it can piece that together, it roughly knows the project and the type of information you've been exchanging over the last few weeks, and it can extract that information and bring it into the collaboration event for you. So this is, if you like, removing those manual steps of you having to go and dig out business intelligence and supporting information relative to the conversation that's ongoing. And there are several ways of doing it. This is a big part of what's going on behind the scenes with the thing we call Flare, which I'll talk about briefly. Okay. Again, we don't have too much time to go into today, but happy to take that offline and have a conversation with people. Customization, to a degree, things have to be customizable. And it obviously has to complete, as I said, a rounded picture across here. So the realities of smart devices, like it or not, a new one will come out on the Thursday, of course. I'm sure some of you are reflecting. The CEO will buy one on a Friday. He'll go to his IT department and ask them to connect it on that same day. Yeah. That is the reality. And of course, you still have to get back in. I know that we've got a predominantly an IT audience, so you still have to come back in on Monday with a job. It's a challenge, yeah? And a lot of the adoption of these technologies is being driven from the executive down, as well as obviously being driven from the bottom up.
Even better, he may have bought it at the airport.
He may have bought it at the airport. The shocking thing, I was in Norway a few weeks ago, and this obviously Norway / Finland's the home of Nokia. I was absolutely shocked at the number of iPhones and iPads that I saw in that country. So obviously Nokia have some documented issues at the moment, and they've got a relationship with Microsoft going now, but it's amazing how far and wide this has spread now in terms of the tablets, and Apple's success certainly within business. And it's not just the executives. Obviously there's a lot of people clambering for these technologies and devices. A number of people will fund them themselves and bring iPads into work, regardless of whether or not the company is supporting them. And it's not about saying no. Unfortunately, that's not going to win you any friends long term, and it's not going to sustain your business either. You cannot bring your iPad, no, you cannot connect outdoors, no, you cannot bring your fancy laptop or desktop, no, you cannot do video conferencing, and video is becoming an important part of the picture longer term as well. It is about saying yes. Yes, you can bring your own iPad. Yes, you're welcome to do mobile collaboration. We've heard how important that is. Yes, you're welcome to use a virtual desktop. And yes, you're welcome to use Wi-Fi, but you have to stay in control. And we'll talk a little bit about how possibly you go about doing that and an approach to it. So the benefits are really undeniable. Obviously, faster collaboration helps you make smarter decisions, instant access, truly mobile workforce. Again, a lot of people had a stab at this in the past and not necessarily been too successful. There's lots of holes in some of the solutions out there. Productivity is the big gain here. We're all under pressure to do more with less. We're no exception to that. That's the same for every business worldwide at the moment. Efficiency and lower total cost of ownership. And I'll talk again in a few minutes' time about somewhere where you might be able to get some money put aside and savings you can make in collaboration to help fund further investment, if you like, in video and audio conferencing, etc. So some of the bring your own device considerations, and I'm not going to steal Jazz's thunder because he'll be covering some of these off, but network capacity, quality of service, mobile application management and mobile device management, all important areas. Jazz will be talking about many of these as part of his presentation, security as well to a degree. The area that, again, I tend to specialise in is user experience. A lot of the time I've been driving UC applications for the last 25 years, one way or another. How can I provide a consistent user experience regardless of the device? And IT compliance. When you see one of my latter slides, you'll see that I don't think it's just an IT issue anymore. I think your HR departments and probably many others need to help you with this. I don't think you'll win the battle just as IT, because there's only a certain amount you can control. I'm no exception to the rule. If you look on my PC, my desktop PC, I probably have in the best region of 10 to 20 applications that are not supported by IT running on my PC, and they won't even be aware of it. And I'm probably far from the exception within the business. That's the reality. So. Because, again, Jazz is going to talk about some of these factors on here. Again, it pulls out common user experience, reduces efficiency and productivity. They're very, very key. So failure to provide a common user experience is a big issue in rolling out bring your own device or mobility strategies. You have to try and get as much synergy as possible with the way that you present applications and capabilities to mobile phones and tablets or PCs. And again, Flare is a big way of doing that in the future. We'll talk a little bit about that. So, a proposed bring your own device adoption methodology. So, understand the core business priorities. What is your objective in allowing broader bring your own device use, and how will your business benefit from that? Hopefully, that's a pretty obvious one for many people. You may already be looking at this, of course. Identify key users and business processes. What processes, work profiles, target users will benefit most from expanded device choices, and which choices really make sense from a high priority perspective. Implement access policies and technology. So what are the wireless roaming, identity management and remote access technologies available really to meet your needs? And again, we'll talk a little bit about the technology later. And build into a common communications architecture, critical. At the moment, these systems are very fragmented. If you've got a core capability in terms of multimedia handling, then you should be able to build on that to expand into the mobility world as well, rather than take bits and pieces from all over the place. Build on a solid platform. And you mentioned very early on about having the right infrastructure in place in the first time. You have to build on a solid infrastructure. So from an Avaya perspective, this isn't too much of a technology coverage. I'm only going to touch briefly on what Avaya has, but these are the Avaya UC clients. Of course, in a mobility world, you have different worker profiles, home workers, office, campus roamers, if you like, telecommuters, whatever you want to call them, all have different connectivity needs via wireless, via the LAN, via the WAN, whatever it happens to be. And I'm sure that many of your business can map people to these type of profiles, although those profiles may be unique to your business. They'll roughly fall into these sort of 4 categories at the time. When it comes to Avaya, there are a couple of key terms up here, or brand names if you like. The Avaya 1X, which is a brand that's been around for a while. I'll talk about that in a second. And then the Avaya Flare. The Avaya Flare is the next generation of user interface that's coming through the Avaya portfolio today. So mobility. So we have a range of clients called 1X Mobile. Some of it's demonstratable next door. So if you want to go and have a look at that. It starts with the very basic. When it comes to mobile needs, one of the most basic fundamental needs is the ability, if you like, to provide a single identity for the enterprise. So you publish a single DDI number or one number, and you're able to extend that number out to mobile devices. And that's seamless to your customers. You retain the number, in other words, rather than your users having personal numbers that people are calling. You need to retain the company identity. If that user leaves the business, they leave with their mobile number. If they're publishing that mobile number potentially, then they can take it with them to another business. So by using a single one number, DDI, DID type number, you can front end your calls to mobile devices and therefore retain, if you like, control of the identity. Equally so, you could use that as a way of forcing the calls out through the PBX to retain your company identity and DDI number as well. So you start with the very basic, what we call parallel dialing or twinning of mobile phones or mobile devices with desk phones or with your internal extension numbers. You can then build on that to add telephony functionality. Telephony functionality being the ability to do mid-call handling, for argument's sake, the ability to put a call on hold, the ability to transfer that call. Of course, that relies on the fact that the call is actually being routed through the PBX to the mobile device in the first place. And the ability, of course, to launch calls through the PBX to save on toll costs as well. Again, it depends on where you are in the country, what your tariff rates are with the supplier that's supplying your mobile contract. But certainly if you're someone that roams outside of the country, there are big savings to be made by routing the calls back through the PBX. Even on a national level, it can make sense. But it's all down to the bargaining power and the contracts that you have with the mobile suppliers as well. It's very much contract dependent on what you have with that background. And then the next level you can stick on top of that, where many customers haven't gone yet, but they're now starting to, is to layer on top UC functionality. So we start to bring richer functionality through smartphones. Because people are now deploying and using smartphones, we have a visual front end, if you like, to the phone. We can start to deliver much more what we call UC type functionality, that visual voicemail. So you can play a voicemail back through the data channel, for argument's sake, without having to place a voice call. You can have presence indication on a mobile phone, your enterprise presence extended to a mobile phone. Those type of functionalities, what I class as the UC type functionality, can now be extended to a smartphone. And that's that next level, if you like, of functionality that we deliver to a smartphone. Flare, on the other hand, Flare is an innovative user interface that was launched about a year ago on a bespoke device to actually show what Flare was capable of doing it. What we're doing with Flare really is, and eventually this will probably surpass the 1X clients that we have in our portfolio. It already is in some areas, and longer term it probably replaces all of our 1X clients, even those that we have on the desktop through Windows today. It is a collaborative environment, so this is really very different in the way that most of the unified communications clients in the past have focused on bringing together different technologies, different modes of communication through a single interface. But that doesn't fundamentally change the way that you interact with the technology. Okay, all that does is bring it together through a single interface. It doesn't necessarily make you more productive. Okay, we have to change the way we interact with those technologies. One of those things I mentioned earlier was contextual information, how we can start to feed context into a collaborative event automatically. And that's coming with the Flare experience. How can we properly blend together different modes of communication, i.e. video, web, audio? Today, a lot of those type of services are very fragmented in the market. You can go and buy a web conferencing application that has a little bit of video in it. You can go and buy an audio conferencing application that has no video in it. Okay, and you're using different applications for the same purpose effectively, but you need to be able to seamlessly step between video, between audio, between web conferencing, as and when you need it from any device. And that has to rely on a core infrastructure where that's all pulled together in one place, not on fragmented applications. It's impossible. Okay? So you have to be able to deliver quality web conferencing, audio and video from a single place, not from fragmented silo-based applications that have a dabble at some part of that, but are strong in another area. Yeah. And that's what the Flare experience is all about. There are two flavors of it. There's Flare Communicator, so you'll hear the terminology Flare Communicator. That's really a light version of Flare. That provides basic telephony type capabilities, presence, etc. And then you'll hear the term Flare Experience. When we use the term Flare Experience, what we're talking about is richer collaboration capability in the background, primarily leveraging a product called Aura Conferencing, which is a multimedia conferencing platform supporting video, audio, and web conferencing in the background. So multi-party, video, audio, web conferencing. That's drawn through and it's experienced through what we call the Flare Experience rather than Flare Communicator. Flare, going back to this topic about how do we get a seamless user interface. Flare was designed from the start to be a user interface that we could take across multiple devices and multiple operating systems. So we started on an Android-based bespoke tablet, and we now have a variant, if you like, that runs on iOS on the iPad called Flare Communicator. Later this year, you will find Flare Experience on an iPad. You will see Flare appear at both a communicator version and an experience version in Windows. Again, we can demonstrate that on alpha code out here today. It's already fairly advanced, supporting peer-to-peer video, presence and other capabilities in there. And longer term, as we start to go through next year, we will start to see Flare appearing on other devices as well. So the next sort of class of device that we're targeting is Android-based tablets, because like it or not, Android is catching up in the market as well, and it's certainly coming from the smaller companies upwards, a demand because it's cheaper to use Android-based tablets as well as using, obviously, the iPad that's out there at the present moment in time. But a universal experience that keeps the experience as seamless as possible across different devices, not just Avaya devices, but across third-party devices as well. Longer term, we expect this again to replace the experience that we currently have on our smartphones called 1X mobile as well. Okay, it's more of a challenge. When you move an experience from one device to another device, you have to modify it to a degree. For instance, if you go to Windows, you're driving things through a mouse, rather than on an iPad, you're obviously driving through touchscreens. So there will be slight modifications in how you interact with the technology, but the fundamentals of that experience stay the same. The types of media you can access, how you access the media, this thing called a spotlight, which you have in the center, which represents a session, a multimedia session, remains as a concept throughout, regardless of the device that you're actually on. And again, the best way of experience this is go and see some demos next door. It's very, very powerful. Lots of accolades out there for it. I'm not going to spend too much time on it because I know we're relatively short of time today, but it's an award-winning application, very different. I haven't seen anything like it on the market yet. There are some applications out there that, if you listen to the marketing, would suggest that they're very similar to this, but there isn't anything on the market quite like Flare yet. Okay, I would class them all as sort of first generation UC clients, much of what's out there, regardless of what the marketing says. This is very, very different. Same with the mobility stuff. Again, it's a challenging market because devices get refreshed every 6-12 months. Keeping pace with different operating systems and different devices is not easy, but boy, you have to. Again, see my summary slide in a minute around some of this. So we do have a very, very diverse set of clients that support mobile phones across Android, across the iPhone, iOS operating system, across some legacy Nokia devices, although obviously they're running on these days, and in the future it'll be Windows. So we'll be looking at Windows over the next couple of years, depending on how quickly that gets picked up in the market. But when it comes to Android or iOS or let's see how long we got out there, missing one. So BlackBerry. Of course, how could I forget BlackBerry? Got one sitting next to me. There you go. So BlackBerry as well. All of those devices are supporting. Okay, and we're moving towards common clients. Those common clients are designed realistically to work in the UC mode and in the telephony stroke light mode. So it's a common set of software that can be deployed on a phone and run in either a UC mode or run in a light mode, that telephony mode. Remember I was talking about the different levels of functionality that you get, and that's where we're moving. We also support today SIP-based phones, so you can actually have a mobile phone as a SIP endpoint. So all your traffic's going across the data channel, no using the voice channel for voice calls. And again, we'll be doing more of that. That's limited to the iPhone these days. We have an iPhone version SIP client, and again, that's part of the converged client strategy, and we will be doing that on other operating systems as well, because again, it's a potential cost saving for businesses running those calls over SIP and using that as a SIP endpoint.
We've got that outside as well.
You got one outside, okay? So we have a SIP client outside you can see as well. So bring your own device, what would it take? It really changed in attitude in terms of being proactive versus reactive, and too many businesses I think have been reactive over this historically. You have to take a holistic approach to bring your own device. Don't bet on a single device or operating system. If you follow this market carefully, you'll see major swings in market share in terms of who owns the operating system, what's being shipped in the market, which devices are popular. I would never bet my life on a single operating system winning out in this market. Okay, it's even Microsoft, who obviously have a large desktop space today in the PC world. Over 1/3 of the current clients used, when you mix up PCs, tablets and smart devices, over 1/3 of that market today is non-Microsoft, and that's growing as Android gets a greater hold in the market as well, and virtualization gets a greater hold in the market. Microsoft's share, if you like, of the overall market for all endpoints, and it's not just about the PC, will shrink. Okay? Obviously, they're very dominant in the desktop space today. But think about your workers. What devices will they be using? How many devices will they be using? What operating system will they be running? So don't bet on a single operating system. You build a strategy around that, and many people would have built a strategy originally in the finance market around BlackBerries because you could lock them down. But the device management's improving across all operating systems, and there are third parties out there that can help you with that as well. Cross-platform security and user experience. Again, user experience is important. Explicitly include all possible components. So when building a policy, try and be as communicative as possible about what you do support and open about what you do support to your user base. Keep them informed, yeah, it's very important. And be prepared to extend as new technology becomes available. From an application standpoint, you can either build or buy applications and extend them to mobile devices. Again, this talk's not really around mobile application management, but it is important how you manage access to applications. Again, I think Jazz may touch on some of this through his presentation. He's going to talk about wireless LAN and how important that is. Security and policy, again, it's more in Jazz's presentation. User experience is critical, drives user adoption. If you get good user adoption, they're less likely to go looking elsewhere for technologies and user experiences that do meet their needs. If you get it wrong, those employers will actually go out and seek alternatives, and I'm no exception to the rule. Yeah, so it's very, very important. Anyone that's technology savvy, not even those that are non-technology savvy, will learn from others. It only takes one person in your organisation to find something that works for them, tell somebody else, and that other person may not be so technology aware or security aware, but they will go off and use that same application if they can. That's the reality. Just moving quickly to video, we fundamentally believe there's convergence needed in the background here. So single platform, what Avaya has is a single platform for both voice, video and other multimedia. In the past, video has been extremely difficult for the user. If you've dabbled in video, you may have 5 minutes, yeah? You may have room-based systems, very challenging to use in a room, okay? You may not use it for 6 months, you go in there and you suddenly try and set up a video call and you can't remember how to do it. That's the reality. As video becomes more, if you like, expanded use within the business and more users get it on their desktops, you need it to be easy. Okay, it's bad enough in the room system, it has to be easy if it's going to reach the desktop. It has to be easier for IT. At the moment, it's very much a separate network managed by a separate company a lot of the time with its own challenges around how you maintain it. And also, it has to be less expensive. It's been really dominated by two vendors historically from an endpoint perspective, Polycom and Tandberg. And therefore, the price point's been able to be kept fairly high with the room systems and desktop video. But again, as you move towards software-based video, the price point has to come down. If you're going to make use of video technology throughout the business, the price point has to drop. And we're addressing all of that with a single platform and moving towards software-based models for video routing, which is very important as well. Those drivers for convergence, that people operate video endpoints as they do other endpoints. Should be as simple as making a voice call, to be quite simple about it. Quality of service. Managing those two networks independently is a challenge. If you're pushing different media traffic across the same backbone, you need to be able to manage voice and video alongside each other. If they don't know about each other, they're always going to be contending for bandwidth, and that is why you have a lot of problems in the background supporting video if you're trying to roll video out, and why you need dedicated bandwidth today. Get rid of that, have a single platform, single point of control for managing bandwidth across all voice and video media. You eliminate that issue. A single management system, obvious one in terms of total cost of ownership, and ability to blend multiple communication modes and business applications through Web 2 type technologies. Very important. We have a broad range of video solutions ranging from desktop video to room-based video systems. We have a unique capability, something called one-touch video that came from our contact center world, which is basically a SIP to flash capability, conversion capability. It enables any end user outside of your corporation to place a video or audio call back into the corporation through a browser without having any specific software downloaded to a PC. It's pretty unique in the market. Okay, so that means I can send an email or I can provide a web address to a user. They can join me on a video conference just using a web browser, several different web browsers. We'll come to that. Relatively new, we've only had it on the market about 3 or 4 months. It actually officially doesn't go to market for about another 2 months, but it's there and it's available if you want to take a look at it. Okay? But it's a very cheap way of allowing third parties actually to reach back into your enterprise and reach your video endpoints or audio endpoints internally as well. very clever piece of technology. And obviously the desktop clients and specific Avaya desktop video devices shown down here. Again, we have those on display out there. Again, I've talked briefly about, and I've got about another 2 minutes, I've only got 3 slides left here, but this convergence that's going on between audio, web and video, and we have a conferencing platform that does that called Aura Conferencing in the background. We also have a very large meeting exchange product which is basically geared around service providers and hosted conferencing and operator assistance type capabilities. In fact, many of you, if you are using service providers to provide audio conferencing today, are likely using some of our technology from the service providers because we're the biggest supplier to the SP community globally in terms of audio conferencing. But here's one of the places you can actually generate cash to help invest in other collaboration tools. Conferencing today, audio conferencing, still has one of the highest ROIs of bringing it in-house. If you use a lot of audio conferencing, and a lot of that audio conferencing is internal users, think about bringing that audio conferencing in-house. It's one of the quickest return on investments, typically 3 to 6 months for a lot of businesses, that you can then plow back into the business to invest in video and mobility strategies. So do look at your audio conferencing services, see what you're paying for them, and see what it would cost to bring that in-house, particularly where you have a large number of internal users using audio conferencing.
I was with a client this week who use audio conferencing. Again, it's internally. 1 hour call with the number of users they have on it, it's over £1,000. And that they're doing these regularly. So again, the cost argument of bringing it in-house onto their own platform and managing it is very strong.
It's a huge payback for a lot of businesses, and a lot of people are missing out here in reality. And that, again, that can be used as a stepping stone, a self-funding stepping stone to help you invest in video and other technologies, particularly if video and that kind of technology is supported on the same platform that audio conferencing is. Because once you pay for the conferencing license, effectively you have the hardware in place in order to roll out video and other forms of conferencing as and when you need it. So, very much a people-centric collaboration experience, addressing consumer mobility, meeting the enterprise that bring your own device or consumerization of IT, supporting new device classes. That's going to keep changing, of course, all the time. We do automated business workflows. We do integration, if you like, of business communications, voice, or whatever it happens to be, into business process as well, using what we call ACE, Agile Communication Environment. We're able to communication enable a number of different business environments. New video economics, as I said, a lot of this is about driving down the cost so that people can make use of video across a broader set of endpoints, particularly desktops and mobile devices and tablets. Productivity suites, you can click to call from almost any environment you would wish to do. Remember, going back to one of the first points I made, that most users' experience of a PC is a shared experience where they're going to work and their experience of a PC is one application on a daily basis. Why would you have to leave that application to go and pick a phone up to make a call? If you've got a customer database in there, you should be able to click to call from any customer database. And using this ACE toolkit, which is also used down here, you can click to enable almost any environment possible where it recognizes a number and will launch a call through the PBX or IPVX. We already do it for things like Salesforce.com. We do it for a lot of the Microsoft suite. For obvious reasons, things like link integration is done through this tool as well. Flair for collaboration and innovation, please do go and take a look at this if you've got time. I'll happily step out and spend some time with folks around this as well and go into more detail. And again, this is just, I think this is my final slide about collaboration adoption methodology. So what's really preventing you from reaching your business objectives, what processes, work profiles and target users will benefit the most. Every user does not need every application. That's one of the benefits of the Avaya architecture, is that you can, if you like, disperse an application on a profile basis using a SIP-based architecture, and you can pull that back very quickly in the same way you do SAP and other applications. Where can you get the most bang for your buck? Which applications are going to help you out first? And who are the key users? What are the key integrations with business applications that you need? And what self-funded steps will save money, lower the total cost of ownership, and increase agility? So again, audio conferencing is one I would stress that you need to go and look at if you're using a lot of that today. And how can existing investments be leveraged and extended? And of course, we have a great track record of allowing our customers to make use of what they've had historically rather than rip and replace. It's a great story to take them forward. So with that, I think I'll finish and hand over to Jazz, and I apologise, I did try and squeeze an awful lot in there. Do come and talk to me. I'm here till about 1:30. I've got a meeting down the road. I'm happy to take it offline and have some conversations around Flair and some of these other concepts. So, Jazz?